Here's a screenshot I took a while back. Most people don't understand that they're circulating propaganda because they don't look into things. They buy into them because they sound good to some degree, but they don't understand that they're covered in shit. For lack of better words. And most of you will assume I'm wrong because you're not going to fucking look into it because a superficial Google search isn't going to tell you what I tell you today. So here it states fund food stamps, not ICE. I agree. I absolutely agree. No one is illegal. That's a phony jurisdiction. It should insult everybody, but it doesn't insult everybody because most people aren't thinking for themselves. It should stand to reason. In other words, having to do with, human rights, injustice, but really human rights. No one should be drug off of, the land that they stand on and they live on and blah, 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 blah. It's insane. It's fucking insane. Yeah. The food stamp jazz, that's another thing that's also demonized. And yet, disparity exists because all the wrong people are in charge, and most people have been told that they don't have masters, so they assume they don't have masters. But you do sign a W-2, which is the example I usually throw out there because it should jar you if you're using your brain, because you would not sign a W-2 if you were a smart person. Because that means you're consenting to giving away, what? A percentage of your labor. You should be recouping. You should be collecting 100% of the labor you put in. You should get 100% back. Unless you've decided, out of the kindness of your heart that you want to work for somebody. And in this case, it's a third party you've never fucking met that doesn't do anything for you. Now, some of you will assume, oh, but the food stamps. Sure. Okay. You can if you want. Sure. And a lot of people will. They'll argue in favor of shit like that and then still claim that they don't have masters. But then they'll also turn around and say reject authority, what was it? What's the other one? I can't think of it offhand. I had it, and I'm starting to digress because I started multitasking. Pardon me, you guys. The other bit I want to point out in here I'm jumping around a bit, but you got this jazz down here. That's funded by the Rockefeller Trust. It's in place to promote the Hegelian dialectic. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be some measure of equality. There should be equality, but there hasn't been and there isn't. Because it's by design, not coincidence. If you're paying attention to how things are working these days, I've talked about the changing of the guard, for lack of better words. So now you get the complete opposite in the programming. Before, women, typically speaking, were relegated to, objects, for lack of better words. Now in the programming, you got a bunch of weak dudes who are dumb, and they need women to tell them what to do. That's one way to think of it, but you see it in the programming more often than not now. And it's equally divisive. In other words, it has nothing to do with equality. It has everything to do with polarizing the masses. It has everything to do with selling a phony narrative to the masses, which is exactly what all these gals out there, as far as I'm aware, were supposedly fighting to change. But then the pendulum swung the other way, to another extreme instead of people walking a path of moderation and doing the right thing. This is when I've been saying lately online, do you understand? I'm posing that question to people because I hope that you fucking think about what I took time and energy to relate to you today. Again, I'm multitasking at the moment. People were going back to the food stamp stuff. Most people were sold and urged to repeat a narrative having to do with, taxes pay for roads and other garbage along those lines. And people believe that shit. They do. That's not the only place that your unconstitutional taxation is funneled. Black projects and these families that pull our strings, among other things, are also on the docket. And most people don't get that because they're not willing to think for themselves. That, I admit, is also equally shitty in terms of, defending this. But I really shouldn't also have to spoon feed you answers. You can just click repost, because if that's the case, you're never going to look into it, which means you don't understand. You don't appreciate where the agenda's coming from, why there is a fucking agenda, or how it's manipulating the masses. You're just clamoring, for the latest thing that sounds kind of good to try to build yourself up and make other people, buy into the phony illusion of you being, smarter than you truly are and or invested in things. I mean, if the chips were down, most of you would bow out. You would fold. And you would sell your neighbor out. That's how most people function, especially in superficial fucking society today. It's not looking good. Especially for folks like myself and anybody who's older than me. All these narcissistic kids that talk about narcissism being bad, but they were raised in a materialistic, hellscape. It's one way to put it, all these superficial internet babies. They're not going to do the right thing. They don't know what the right thing is. They don't know which way's up. They're marching in lockstep, and the only thing that they do know is shit that's spoon-fed to them on the internet, in their feed. Just like this. They repeat that, then they move on to the next fucking thing in their feed, which is why people were sold a narrative. In this case, an expression. Digest the latest what? And technically, it's propaganda. But media was rebranded content. And more often than not, that media, which was rebranded content, is in fact propaganda. And this is one of many examples. What the fuck do I know?